Welcome to the Main Basketball Rankings podcast. I am your host, basketball data nerd Lucas McNally. So we have 1 week in the books, 1 week and a couple days. Everyone's played 2 or 3 games, so let's get into it, shall we? So the first thing we're going to talk about here is this fight. Maybe you've seen the video already from the Ashland Easton game. So let's get it right out of the way, hey, and let's watch the fight. If you haven't seen this fight yet, you're in for a treat. This is at the Ashland Easton game that was on. I think it was on Friday. Kay Ireland, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, sent me the video. She said to use it, go nuts. This is a high school basketball game. This is okay. First, there's a couple things here. You should not ever get in a fight at a high school basketball game. If you are getting in a fight with in a high school basketball game and you are not playing in the game, then you have some major problems. And maybe therapy is in your future. Maybe therapy should be in your future, but there's no reason to get in a fight at a high school basketball game. For the love of God. But it's worse than that. It's worse than that. So, first of all, they're not fighting with the other team. This is not Easton fans fighting with Ashland fans. This is Easton fans fighting with each other over God knows what. There's a baby right there, you may have noticed if you're watching the video. And they're winning this game by 47 points. What is wrong with you? Oh my gosh. So hopefully these people have been banned from Ashland. They shouldn't be going to Easton games. They shouldn't be going to any games. This is a disaster. And normally, something like this, we just sort of make fun of it. But, I put it on Facebook. It was in the newsletter, and everybody got kind of a laugh, like, geez, with these guys, And then I got this, really flood of people from Easton telling me to take it down. So first of all, someone demanded I take it down. And if you know anything about me, you know that didn't work, because demanding I do anything is a fool's errand. And then I had people telling me that I needed permission from Easton to be able to show this video, or I needed permission from the people in the video, and someone wanted me to take it down because they were in the video, and then people's feelings were getting hurt, and there's drama, and it's all these people, all from Easton, all trying to get me to take the thing down. And first of all, the toothpaste is out of the tube. You're not fixing that. That's not happening. It's out there, it's in the world, And then I thought about it a little bit, because some people made some sort of compelling arguments that, it's putting Easton in a bad light or whatever, or it's rough for the players on the Easton team to have to deal with this. And yeah, it is, but I'm sorry, but it's just not an acceptable behavior. And then the more I got thinking about it, was I came to the conclusion that we kind of need to show this stuff, because if we just pretend it doesn't happen, then it just keeps happening. So maybe a good analogy, and maybe not a great analogy, is not the flop technicals, the dunk technicals from years ago. There was all this word that they were getting these dunk technicals, and people would go, no, that can't really be a thing. Dunk technicals? That's so stupid. And then we started getting videos of them. And when you start getting a lot of videos of them, you go, my God, this is really, really stupid. And here's concrete evidence. And look at how dumb these calls are. So if we get situations like this and we show it to people and be like, hey, this is how people are acting like jackasses in public, there's a little bit of public shaming to that. And there's a little bit of maybe you get enough of these and people think twice about fighting at a high school basketball game. What is wrong with you people? So yeah, I think it's important that these things are seen. I think it's important that they're spread widely. And I think it's important that people understand that this is not acceptable behavior and there are going to be consequences, real world consequences to acting like that. And, if you're one of the collateral damage people around that, go to those people in your community who are acting like jackasses at games and tell them to stop. Because no one needs this. You don't need this. They don't need this. The kids absolutely do not need this. And really, the only people who benefit from it are the people who don't live anywhere near Ashland or Easton, don't have to deal with this at all, and can make jokes on the internet. Those are really the only people who come out ahead here. So stop fighting. And you know what? If you're doing dumb things like this, it's going to end up on the internet because that's how the internet works these days. Okay. So my thinking in this doing the podcast is maybe every Sunday night, I'm recording this Sunday night, obviously. Do kind of a summary of the week, a couple of things that happened, and then hit the top 10 of the power rankings, go through it real quick, set up the week, and we're gonna try that. So we had a couple things this week. With a couple of stories that jumped out to me. The Wiscasset boys got what has to be the biggest win that they've had in forever. They beat Forest Hills at the Augusta Civic Center rather convincingly. For a program that was in really dire straits for a very long time, this is such a great win. And I think it's such a great win for the MPA going with relegation, because I don't think this happens without relegation. I don't think if Wiscasset, and I know some of the people who have been involved in the Wiscasset rebuild, the long rebuild, and there's some good people working very hard on that, but I think the relegation is pretty key to that, in getting them down in D and getting them in some games that they could win. And because winning fixes a lot of stuff, and it's really, do you want to go out for basketball if you're going to lose every game by 60 points? Like, do you really want to do that? I mean, yeah, if you're like a dedicated kid, sure, but if you're on the fence, if you got other things going on, maybe you don't. And I think getting them some hope of being able to win has been very huge in turning that program around. So kudos to them, and I hope they keep it up, and I hope they're very much enjoying a win over Forest Hills. And so I think that's it. Let's go to the top 10, shall we? Because I got started late on this, and it's pretty late, and I didn't take good enough notes. All right, so let's go to the top 10. Girls first. Okay, so I like to tell people, don't pay attention to the rankings in the first couple days of the season because they're wacky. They start with last year. So Chevrolet started number 1 on the girls' rankings, and there's just so much noise and so much movement in the first couple days, the first couple games, that it doesn't start to make sense at all until we get to about now, maybe next week, and next week it'll look a lot better. But it's just small stuff like if you play a really bad team in the first week of this, in your first game, then you're going to drop because there's no points there. And so you're not going to be able to gain any points, and other teams will play games and they'll pick up points. And the model is still a little bit confused as to who's good still and who's not good and who's dropping and all that. And so what looks like, there might be a game where, you beat somebody, and wow, it's worth a lot of points in the power rankings, but it's worth a lot of points in the power rankings because last year they were really good and this year they're not, and so that's going to become less valuable as the season progresses. So with that in mind, this is about the time we start to look at this. So number 10 on the girls' side, Marshwood, they're 2-1. They beat Kennebunk 56-44. They beat Westbrook and Mount Ararat. Are they 2-1? Now, see, I'm already screwing this up. My notes. I had my notes, and I wrote that they won all those games. Hold on one second. Super professional. No, they are 3-0. Okay, I wrote that down. They're 3-0. They are plus 36 on the year. Number 9 is Edward Little. They're 2-1. They lost to Oxford Hills 40-46, but then they beat Sanford and they beat Hamden. They are plus 7 on the year. Number 8 is Gorham. They're undefeated, 3-0. They beat Falmouth 70-15. They beat Wyndham 33-25. They beat Greeley 57-24. Here's an example of that is going to be worth a lot because it's Greeley, but it's starting to look like maybe Greeley is going to have a down year, and that might not be worth very much in a couple weeks. They are plus 96 on the year. Number 7 is South Portland. They are 3-0. They beat Noble 51-19. They beat Lewiston by a lot. They beat Scarborough 51-32. They're plus 85 on the year. Number 6 is Cheverus. They are 3-0. They were number 1. And this is a situation where I don't think there's enough points here in these games. They beat Deering by a lot. They beat Bonnie Eagle by a lot. They beat Portland by quite a bit. They're plus 105 on the season. Number 5 is Mount Ararat. They're 2-1. They beat Greeley 61-15. See what I'm saying about Greeley? I think it might be not Greeley's best year. They beat GNG by about 15. And they lost to Marshwood. They are plus 54 on the season. And now this is a situation where you go, well, why is Mount Ararat higher than Marshwood? Marshwood beat Mount Ararat because Mount Ararat started higher, and they're also getting a lot of points for that win over Greeley. So we'll see how that shakes out. Number 4, this is a bit of a surprise. Oceanside, they are 1-2. They lost to Coney 47-49. They beat Madomic by quite a bit, and I was there for that, and that was a really well-coached game by Oceanside. And they lost to Camden 41-49. They're only plus 8 on the year. So Oceanside obviously had Bailey Breen last year. They were number 2, I believe, at the end of the season in the power rankings. So they've dropped down some, and there was really quite a lot of room for them. They had a little bit of a cushion. What's really doing a lot of work for them here is the Madomic win. Madomic they're in the mix. Let me find Madomic. I think they're still in the top 25. Madomic is 20th, and an 18-point win on the road against a top 25 team is going to be worth a lot of points. So that's sort of keeping them up there. I expect they're going to drop going forward. Number 3 is Sanford. They're 2-1. They beat Thornton Academy 64-28. They lost to Edward Little, and they beat York by 20. They're plus 51 on the year. Number 2 is Oxford Hills. They're 3-0. They beat Edward Little. They beat Bangor by a lot. They beat Coney by 7, and Ella Pelletier had 34 points in that game. And then number 1 is Brunswick. This is a bit of a surprise. They're 3-0. They beat Freiburg by a lot. They beat Freeport by, 9? And they beat Biddeford by quite a bit. That was a little bit of a surprising number. Now come in, they held Jordan Crump to 4 points. They're plus 71 on the year. This is a team that when we did the wins draft, Adam's like, I'm just going to keep betting on Brunswick because they're Brunswick and this is what they do. They lose a lot of people every year and they reload, and that sort of looks like what's happening. So there's your top 10 in girls after week 1. Brunswick, Oxford Hills, Sanford, Oceanside, Mount Ararat, Cheverus, South Portland, Gorham, Edward Little, and Marshwood. If you go to the site, you can see exactly where your team is and yell at me because clearly your team is rated too low. I get it. All right, let's do the boys. No, I got caught on something there. All right. Number 10 is Gorham. They're 0-2. They lost to Wyndham 67-75. They lost to Greeley by 3. Greeley boys, pretty good. They are negative 11 on the year. So Gorham, though, they did finish the season last year number 1, despite losing the state championship game to Wyndham. So much to the chagrin of Wyndham, who seemed to think that they should be number 1, having just won the state championship, and that's fair enough. Fair enough. But they weren't. So Gorham had enough points, had enough of a buffer there. And so they're now 0-2. They've fallen down to 10th. It seems like they're probably going to keep falling because, points are a thing. Up next, they have Bonnie Eagle. Number 9 is Lincoln Academy. They're 3-0. They beat MCI by 4. They beat Winslow by 8. And they beat Cape by 18. That are plus 30 on the year. They're an interesting test case, Lincoln Academy. They lost pretty much everyone out of that rotation. They lost, I think, all 5 starters. Gabe Hagar was 1,000-point scorer. There was a great story last year of them getting the 2 seed in B South, going on a bit of a run there. And they're still in the top 10. I don't know that there's anything in these results here that tells us anything. I think there's not a ton of points there, and this is sort of a wait and see until they really get tested, and then we're going to get a sense of, is Lincoln Academy a top 20 team? Are they a top 10 team? Are they going to fall back into the pack? I don't know, but we're going to find out pretty quickly because they have Madomic up next, and that will tell us quite a bit about how good they are. And then after that, they have somebody else. Let me find it. Oh, and then they have Morse, so they'll probably beat Morse. But they have York coming up. They have York and Oceanside coming up at the end of the year. So we're going to know quite a bit about how good Lincoln Academy is by January 2nd. By the end of January 2nd, weather permitting, after that Oceanside game at Oceanside, we're going to have a really good idea of how good Lincoln Academy is. All right, so number 8 is Cheverus. They're 3-0. They beat Deering by 6. They beat Bonnie Eagle by, that's a lot, 34. And they beat Portland 46-38. They're plus 48 on the season. And they are going to play South Portland next. South Portland is number 7. See, that's very convenient how that worked out. They're 2-1. They lost to Noble on opening night, 59-67. Then they beat Lewiston, 62-46. They beat Scarborough, 67-49. They're plus 26 on the year. I saw them in the preseason. They look really good. I would not be surprised if 7 is as low as they are all year. Manny Hidalgo, if you haven't seen him lately, he just seems like he got faster this season, this offseason. He's been in the gym, I think. He looked really fantastic when I saw him this in the preseason at the tip-off thing, the Yankee Ford tip-off thing. Number 6 is Madomic Valley, the team they played in the Yankee Ford tip-off thing. They're 2-0. They beat Belfast 54-23, and then a really impressive win over Oceanside 66-44. I was at that one. The big question with Oceanside was how. So last year, Zeb Foster was able to score a lot of points for Oceanside because the defenses were obviously focused on the Galley twins, and then the question was how good could he be as the primary threat, and he has shown so far that he's pretty good as the primary threat. He's had a couple of big games. So what was interesting about this, though, Madomic put Gabe Lash on him. Gabe Lash is 6'6". You wouldn't normally put Gabe Lash, a 6'6" guy, on a point guard, but they did it, and it worked. They held Foster to 2 points in the first half, and he was able to get some going in the third quarter, but by then it was all over, and it was a very impressive performance defensively for Madomic. They got Rocco DePazzi had a big night in his first game in the rivalry, his first home game for Madomic, and so it looks like he's fitting in, and 6 might be a low point for them, for Madomic as well. They're plus 53 on the year. And up next, they have Lincoln Academy and Mount View. We're going to see, I think Mount View is down this year. They lost a lot. I don't think it's the same Mount View that went on that run in C North. Number 5 is Messalonsky. They're 3-0. They beat Nokomis 62-43. They beat Gardner by 6. And they beat Lawrence 78-51. They are plus 52 on the season. I saw them also at the Yankee Ford tip-off thing, and I'm surprised they're 3-0. I thought they looked like they were trying to figure out what to do without Merrick Smith, and maybe I just caught them on a bad day because these are some pretty good numbers they're putting up. So we're going to find out some more about them. They're going to play Coney and Brewer. Brewer, of course, has that dynamic freshman, Ollie Higgins, and I can already see Brewer yelling at me for them not being in the top 10. But guys, you were 4-14 last year. We have to start with that, so it's going to take you a little while to climb up the rankings. In fact, let's see where you are. We'll do that right now. So Brewer is 52nd. That's respectable. I think they were in the 90s or the 70s or something like that at the beginning of the year. So they're working their way up. It's going to take them a little bit to get into the top 25. And, I picked you in the wins draft for the teams that missed the playoffs. So I'm rooting for you as much as I root for anybody, and mostly so that I can beat Adam and Tyler and Mike Mandel in our wins draft. Number 4 is Mount Blue. They're 3-0. This is kind of a surprise. No Evan Sterling. So you would think they would have fallen off. They beat Lawrence 68-50. They beat Camden 80-67, which was a surprise. Nolan Ames had a huge game in that one. I think he had like 38 in that one. And then they beat Maranacook 61-30. So that's doing a little bit of their work here because Maranacook is still pretty high in the rankings. They are 12th. They are getting a lot of benefit from beating Monmouth in that game with the 6 technical fouls. If you didn't see that, Monmouth got 6 technical fouls in one game. There were some flop technicals, and we'll talk about the flop technicals in a minute here. Anyway, so Mount Blue is plus 62 on the season. Next up, they have Hamden and Nokomis. Number 3 is Noble. Jameer Rose and Noble is 2-0. They are 2-0. They beat South Portland 67-59. They beat Falmouth, in which looked like a great game, 54-52. They're only plus 10 on the season, but those are pretty good, 2 really good wins. So up next, they have Kennebunk and Deering. Number 2 is Wyndham. They're going to be so mad at me. Wyndham is 2-0. They beat Lewiston. They're the defending champs. If you don't already know that, they're the defending champs. They beat Lewiston 85-54. They beat Gorham in a rematch of the state championship game 75-67. They're plus 39, and they have Edward Little next. So the reason they're not number 1 is that York is number 1, and York is 4-0. And it's a little bit of a counting stat, the rankings, and so it's not a per game thing. So York is kind of number 1 because they've got 2 games on Wyndham and Noble. It's pretty much it. So they're 4-0. They beat Yarmouth 74-47. They beat Freiburg by 10. They beat Poland by a bunch. They blew out Wells. They're plus 89 on the season, and we're going to learn a lot about them because their next game is Greeley. And Greeley looks legit. I saw them also at the Yankee Ford tip-off thing. They look fantastic. So there's your top 10. York, Wyndham, Noble, Mount Blue, Meso, Madomic, South Portland, Cheverus, Lincoln Academy, and Gorham. All right, let's talk about the flop technicals. This is so stupid. I am working on a theory that the people who run the NFHS and come up with the rules don't watch basketball. This is my working theory. So the first, they get rid of the 1-on-1 free throws for safety reasons. And have you ever in your life seen someone get hurt in the rebounding action of a 1-on-1? No, you've never seen it because it's not happening. It's not a problem at all. So then now we have these flop technicals as a point of emphasis. And it's just so stupid. There's this motion thing that they do, and then they got to warn everybody, and then there's a team technical. And I think Jared Richmond said it best on the broadcast during the Monmouth game, is a point of emphasis. And they're going to worry about it for like 2 weeks. And by Christmas, it's going to be in the past. I've had so many people tell me they hate it. It clutters up. It slows the game down. It's just a nightmare. I don't think anyone likes it. I don't think the refs like it. The players think it's ridiculous. Some of these flops that they're calling flop technicals on aren't even flops. You know, it's just a guy didn't get hit hard enough and he fell over and they're calling a technical. And it has no place in the game. It's a very much a prove to me you don't, tell me you don't know ball without telling me you don't know ball. And let's just get rid of it. And so I guess the reason for it is safety. I guess, because flops and you want to get the scourge of the flop out of the game, and flops aren't that bad. I mean, I don't have that much of a problem with it. It's nowhere near like European soccer or anything where you see some of those videos. There's a real simple solution for the safety issue here. Get a can of paint and draw a restricted circle. And there's your problem solved. That's it. Why they haven't instituted a restricted circle is beyond me. It is safety on those plays, on those block charge plays. Some of them look terrifying to me, and maybe it's because I'm old now, but You know, I didn't like doing them when I was a player. I would take charges, but because I was only 6'1", and I didn't like doing it. These big guys, the big 6'4", 6'5" guy who's, burly, come flying at me. I don't want any part of that. Um, so, I mean, the safety issue in that is real, and guys getting airborne and guys sliding in under them while they're airborne, and the restricted circle, you know this, I know this, anyone who watches basketball knows this, that the restricted circle fixes it really elegantly because there's a line, and even if they can't get the call right on whether or not your heel was on the restricted circle or whatever, the restricted circle is going to make the defender come out further and not set up directly under the basket, and the safety issue gets fixed instantly. And it's a can of paint. It's some tape if you're in a Class D gym, that sometimes might have to tape down the 3-point line. It's the easiest fix in the world. I don't understand why they don't do it. Call your congressman, I guess. I mean, this is so stupid. And now we're gonna do this flop technical thing for like half the year, and then we're gonna forget about it, and then it's gonna come back in a tournament game in a big spot, and it's gonna impact a tourney game, and everyone's gonna get mad about it again, and it's gonna be a disaster. So there's the rant on the flop circle. So in summary, do not fight at a high school basketball game. If you're going to fight at a high school basketball game, fight with the fans of the opposing team. Don't fight your own fellow fans of your own team because you look like an idiot. At least have the decency to fight the other team. Do it in the parking lot. Act like you've been here before. Don't fight your own fans. And then don't complain when it gets on the internet. And then their second lesson here is the flop technical is stupid. And yeah, if you haven't seen it yet, it's a disaster. All right, that is going to pretty much be the show. We'll be back with another one. Try to get another guest in here. I haven't sorted that out yet, but I think every week we'll do this thing and we'll sort of go through the week and bring in some videos and stuff like that and run down the top 10 and yeah, take a look at it. Okay, let's call that a show. Let me find the thing. This has been a production of MaineBasketballRankings.com, your source for the most comprehensive coverage of Maine high school basketball from Ashland to York and everywhere in between. And if you're in Ashland, stop fighting people. This podcast is available wherever you listen to podcasts and a bunch of places you don't. If you enjoy this, please leave a nice review because it really does help out with algorithms. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell the people you fight at a basketball game. Thanks for listening.